Hello everybody. I know it's been a while since I posted anything on my YouTube channel, and the reason for that is that I've been incredibly busy. For those of you who don't know, I started my master's program at Norwich University about a whole month ago, and I just kind of wanted to make a video going over the first 4 weeks of grad school. Maybe it'll help people who are thinking about going to grad school. I know it's a little different between the subjects. Just to kind of give a general idea of how history master's program works. Classes started March 3rd in a technical sense. We had to do a orientation course, which was basically just a series of quizzes to make sure you get a general idea of what you were doing. With Chicago-style citations and text citations using Chicago-style, the 17th edition of Chicago-style citations, and then differentiation between primary and secondary sources, so articles, maps, stuff like that. But MH 510, which is the class that I'm in right now, started March 9th, I think. So about the week after orientation, and to be honest with you, I don't really know what to think of it. I kind of expected something, for lack of a better word, different. I did my undergraduate degrees. I did my history degree at Hanover College under the tutelage of Dr. Dan Murphy, and then I did my Bachelor of Science at Indiana University East, and I don't actually remember the name of my advisor. So when I applied to graduate school, I applied to 4 programs in total. I applied to a Ph.D. program in history at Notre Dame University, a Master of the Arts in Psychology at Pepperdine University, a Master of the Arts in History at Indiana State University, a Master of the Arts in Psychology at Indiana State University, and then, so 5, and then a Master of the Arts in History at Norwich. I got denied at Notre Dame. They were no longer taking applications to their PhD program, so they had no more openings, which I understand that, whatever. I got in, or I was accepted to the Master of the Arts in Psychology at Pepperdine, which I really didn't think I was going to. I got denied at Indiana State University for both history and psychology, which kind of hurt my feelings, but I mean, it is what it is. And then I got accepted to Norwich. After reviewing the costs to each program, it became abundantly clear that if I didn't want to graduate with tens of thousands of dollars of debt, then Norwich was probably going to be the way to go. It was about a third of as expensive. It was a little bit longer of a program. It's an 18-month program compared to a year-long program at Pepperdine, but it was literally a third the cost, so I ended up going with Norwich. Excuse me. And thus far, I remain relatively unimpressed with what I've seen so far. The class that I'm in, I know that it's just the beginning of the program, and I kind of had high hopes, and that's kind of the first step on the road to disappointment, but I'm not actually doing history. I'm essentially in a graduate level methods class, which I understand the necessity for that, because some people that are coming in don't really have any idea what they're doing with Chicago, or how to even do citations or historical research. But the way Hanover's history program was structured is that was basically all you did. The classes, you didn't have tests. All of your class grades came by way of you having 6 out of, I think, the 13 classes that I took at Hanover were directly, the entire grade was based off 4 papers. And so you either knew how to do research, engage with primary and secondary sources, do proper citations, or you took a hit to your grade that was essentially irreparable. Even if you did really well in the other 3 papers, the other 4 papers, whatever it was. there was such a weight to each assignment that you really wanted to make sure that you did well on everything, because there wasn't any buffer points, there wasn't any extra credit. I mean, it was a difficult program, but they were good teachers, they were good professors, and so I kind of know how to do all this already. And so it kind of just feels like, I think in total, because they didn't charge me for room or board because it's primarily an online program, they didn't. So in total, the program cost around $10,000. But $10,000 is a lot of money for me to sit here. And for the methods class lasts 11 weeks, so I'm a little under halfway done. For 11 weeks for me to sit here and basically just piss away money and then feel like I'm not really doing anything with it. And the problem with that is that it isn't so much that I don't feel like I'm learning history. I don't really agree with the professor that I have. So I've never really had a problem, not at Hanover, not at IU East, where I had a professor that just kind of irritated me. I had professors that I didn't really think were doing a good job with lecture, that I didn't really think were doing a good job with labs and psychology, or even the more biologically and chemistry-oriented classes that I had to take for neuroscience and so forth. But I never had a professor that, kind of made me sit back and just think, I don't really like how you're doing that. But this methods class is taught by a professor, John Broom, and I looked up his CV, which I do with all of my professors, before I actually went to the class, and I don't want to take anything away from the man, because he seems like he knows what he's talking about in a very general sense, and I think he was in the military for quite some time. I messed up, I'm sorry. So I think that he was in the military for quite some time, but when he first started the class, in the all-call email, or he posted an all-call email in something called the instructor office, which is essentially, it's a Dropbox for emails that he can post that everybody in the graduate program will get. And I think that in total, in the master's program, there are five of us. So in this instructor office, he posted the curriculum, the assigned readings, all that shit. And then he posted a rant. I'm not kidding, it was an actual rant. And in this rant, he proceeded to rail on undergraduate programs for grade inflation, which, I could agree with that in some senses. And then he said that in his eyes, nobody should expect to get a perfect score in his class because nobody's perfect. He even went further and said nobody should expect to get even an A in his class because A's denote perfection, and none of us are perfect, and so none of us can get perfect scores. You see, now, I've heard of professors doing stuff like this, but I've never personally had this, and that really bothers me, because what he's essentially saying, or what he essentially said in this post, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is just what I've extrapolated from that rant that he posted, is that even if he provides very well detailed rubrics for everything we do, every discussion post, every author article analysis, every primary source analysis, every quiz, whatever. So even if you meet all the criterion in that rubric for the assignment that you're turning in, you still won't get a perfect score, because this man has decided, or has the predisposition, that you're not perfect. So even if you've met those criteria, you haven't. And so you're not getting a perfect score. And the way that he does grading, and so, well, initially I just didn't really take this seriously. I was just like, okay, whatever, he's going to be a difficult grader. I've had that before. And then we started actually turning things in. And so week one's assignments were essentially just, it was a Chicago-style manual citations, whatever, quiz. It was like 40 questions. It was cake. I think I missed one. And then there were 2 discussion boards, each 750 to 1,000 words each, over the assigned readings. And admittedly, I did make one mistake on the first one. I forgot, I can't remember what I did. I think I fucked up. Like, I forgot to italicize the name of the work and one of the citations. So, that was worthy of losing points. But it wasn't just he docked points off for that one mistake. He docked 13 points off for that one mistake. So, not italicizing a title of a book lost me 13 points. And so I was just like, okay, Jesus, I really need to be perfect here. And so week 2, week 3 go by, and I get 85s. And then week 4 rolls around, and lo and behold, I get an 85 again. And so what he does is that when he sends back grading feedback is that he'll send you back your discussion posts in a Word format with his comments off the side. And I think the sum total of his comments on these Word posts have been like 30 words. So he's not pointing out what I'm doing wrong. I mean, he even leaves very well written, very good use of argumentative analysis, primary, secondary sources, but then that's it. And so even though he's giving this glowing review of my discussion board or my author article analysis, I'm still losing 15 points for some reason. And I mean, this wouldn't bother me if this was some bullshit 200 level history course that I was just taking to fulfill an elective credit, but this isn't. This is the first class in a master's program in which GPA really matters. And so I'm really not happy with that, and it really bothers me, and I really don't think it's right. But negatives aside, I actually have the reading list here for those interested in what a reading list for a master's program looks like. We have 7 books here. John Arnold's Very Short Introduction to History. The Landscape of History by John Gaddis. How Historians Map the Past. I actually really like this one. Histories and Fallacies by Carl Trueman. This is another really good one, too, for if you're interested in different modes of historical thinking. So von Ranke, postmodern, Marxist, feminist, anachronisms and contextualizing the past into a historical sense. This is a really good book for that, and it's really, really easily, I mean, you can cook through this in a day. I think that there's in total about 180 pages, so that's a good one. The Elements of Style. This isn't really a reading guide. It's primarily It's primarily just assigned to read through it so you kind of understand sentence structure, syntax, and stuff like that in graduate level writing and reading. So I mean, that's a good one. I haven't really done anything with that. I haven't really needed to use it. The 3rd edition of Historians on History. So this is essentially just a collection of entries by other historians as to what history means to them. They're public historians, popular historians, which I mean basically the same thing. Intellectual historians, historians of ideas, historians of science. It's really good if you want to get like a general idea of the different subfields in history and how they all go about analyzing evidence, form their narratives, and so on and so forth. Eats, Shoots, and Leads. This is just another guide to proper syntax, sentence structure, and stuff like that. Again, I haven't really done anything with this, but it did come with this cute little panda and quotation mark and question mark and exclamation point stickers, so that's cool. And then the Historian's Toolbox. This is another really good one. It goes over essentially just historical methodology, narratives, explanations, the differences between the subfields in history, the importance of evidence in those subfields, how they craft their narratives, the difference between popular and empirical history, stuff like that. I haven't got all the way through this one. I think that we're not supposed to get through that one. This one's a bit longer and it's a little bit denser to read because it actually like provides examples of his documents and shit like that. It's a good one though, and that's not counting all the online stuff that we have to read, which I think in total, if for you guys who are interested in just like a weekly summary of what we have to do, or at least in my program, there's about 200 to 400 pages of reading in physical books. And then there's about anywhere between, on a low end, 50 to a high end, 200 additional pages of online reading. It's not that bad. I mean, a lot of the stuff's really interesting to read, especially, I mean, if you're in a graduate program for history. History's interesting anyways. So it doesn't take me very long. I can usually get most of the readings done by Monday or Tuesday. The discussion boards that we have, there's usually 2 questions. Each of them have to be 750 to 1,000 words. They're usually synthesizing the readings to answer a certain question that he posts. Those aren't really that difficult. Again, it's just the grading's kind of a problem. So there's 2 discussion boards usually, and then along with the discussion boards, there's either going to be an author article analysis or primary source analysis. And so what he does with that is that he either assigns an online reading or an online journal document, an online article, or an online primary source, and then you read it, and then you analyze who the author is, where he's coming from, what would influence his opinion, why he's writing it, so on and so forth, and then you actually analyze the article, what argument it's making, if it's convincing, so on and so forth. And the same thing for the primary source analysis. So all in all, there's typically about 3 to 4 things that we have to do a week. Quizzes, I think there's about 1 every other week. They're about 40 questions long, and there's only 1 attempt, obviously. For the most part, it's over just the methods comprising actual historical analysis, so making sure you know how to do citations, making sure you can tell the difference between primary and secondary sources, making sure that you can actually identify the key elements of primary and secondary sources. I think that there's another one down the road, which is just like a more extreme version of the citation quiz that we took early on in the year. So, but yeah, that's the first month of grad school down. I'll probably make these videos on a regular basis, or rant on a regular basis about graduate school. I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet after I finish this master's program, or if I finish that master's program for that matter. Application cycle's coming back around for Ph.D. programs, and if I can get into one of those instead of doing my master's, then that will probably be the goal. This time I have a lot more programs in mind that I want to apply for. Thus far I have 4 programs in psych or neuroscience, and then 3 programs in history that I'd like to apply for. I do want to retake the GRE though. I barely got by with a 300. I think I got a 303 last time I took it, which isn't really that great, obviously. But I got absolutely fucking shellacked on the quantitative section, so I'd like to get it up to at least 315, 320, just so I can be a little bit more competitive in PhD admissions. But no, other than that's it, and I'll let you guys go, and I'll probably make another video in another 2-3 weeks. Peace.